the unsteady flow case, that is the non-equilibrium equation. So this is the non-equilibrium equation solution methods. There are some standard methods. The first one is a direct method given by Thies. So it is called as Thies method. And then there is another method developed by Copeland, and third one is what is known as Chow's method, and fourth one is a recovery test method, that is residual drawdown method. So there are relative advantages and disadvantages. Some methods are simplified, and some are some involves some assumptions and so on. So let us see the first method, Thies method. So in the Thies method, for all these things, in all methods, the common point is only this: yes, the drawdown is given by Q divided by 4 pi T into well function, where U is given by R squared S by 4 capital T small t. So R and T are the locations. R is the location and T is the time. So at any time from the beginning of the pumping, at any radial distance R, for an aquifer whose storage coefficient is S and transmissivity is T, the drawdown is given by this expression: S is equal to Q divided by 4 pi T into well function. So this well function is this expression. Now, tables are developed for that, and the table is available. So we calculate first this expression: U is equal to R squared S divided by 4 TT at the desired point and desired time. At the desired point and desired time. Then we'll proceed like this. So this is, somebody has joined. Why? Okay. So this is the standard graph drawn between U and W. How this graph is developed, this graph you also can develop. How? So use this equation, use this expression. For different values of U, you get the values of WU. Only thing is, how many terms you will take all depends upon your accuracy and the magnitude of the constant U. So here if you see, U is taken 1 into 10 to the power of minus 15 to 1 into 10 to the power of minus 1. So that is the range it has been taken. So if you also take that range and different values you can use, and you can use Excel sheet and develop this. Or alternatively, there is a table already given. So this table is there. U is equal to this value, and these are all values of WU. So for the problem that is given, suppose this is the problem. U is equal to 1500 meter cube per day. T is equal to 600 meter square per day. And S is equal to 4 into 10 to the power of minus 4. So you are supposed to find the drawdown at a distance of 1 kilometer from the well after 1 year. Suppose there is continuous pumping, we will assume. So therefore, for this set of data, now you calculate U. U is equal to R squared. R is 1 kilometer. So in meters it is 1000. R squared. Yes, S is the storage coefficient. It is a dimensionless value. So as it is, you will use it. And T is 600 meters per day. So this you have to convert into meters. Now your time is, 1 year. 1 year means 365 days. So because this is in meters per day, this also should be in days. So what you should remember is R, if you substitute in meters, your S, small s, the result will be automatically in meters. Then whatever is the unit of T, if it is meters square per day, you have to have small t in days. You look at this. Suppose your T is given not in meters. Say for example, centimeter square it is given. Suppose it is given. Your capital T is given in centimeter square per second. Then what you have to do is, you should use the value of R in centimeters only. If you look at this, this is dimensionless. This should not have any dimensions. So T will have L square dimensions. L squared T minus 1. And here this small t will have dimensions of t. And in the numerator, R will have dimensions of L. So R square will have dimensions of L square. And S is dimensionless. So the precaution when you are solving the problems is that you should see that the numerator, if it is in centimeters, suppose you are substituting for R in centimeters, then you have to use for capital T centimeter square per second or centimeter square. And if you are substituting centimeter square per second, then your small t should also be in seconds. If your capital T is centimeter square per day, then your small t should be day. So therefore, that is the precaution you have to follow. Otherwise, your results will be wrong. So now what we have done here is we have used all consistent units, meters, meters. So therefore, this is meter square and this meter square. This is D in the here and D. So therefore, this entire thing is dimensionless. So what is the value we got? 4.6 into 10 to the power of minus 4. So this is the value. Now what we will do is, we will use this value and enter into the table given in the next. So your U is 4.6 into 10 to the power of minus 4. So this is 10 to the power of minus 4, 1. So this will be 1 into 10 to the power of minus 4 value. This is WU for 2 into 10 to the power of 4. This is for 3 into 10 to the power of 4. This is the value. For 4 into 10 to the power of minus 4, 7.25. So U value and WU value. So for 4 into 10 to the power of minus 4, what is WU? 7.25. And for 5 into 10 to the power of minus 5, minus 4, the value of U is 7.02. So what is the value for 4.6 into 10 to the power of minus 4? That means you have to interpolate between these two values. So it will be 7.25 minus 7.02 this is for 1 in 10 to the power of minus 4 difference. So our value will be is 4.6. So the whole thing $7.25 minus 7.25 minus. So this is our value. So this you will get as 7.12. Have you checked this? All of you? Use your calculator and check. $7.25 minus 7.02, that is 0.23. So this is 0.23 into 0.6. So $7.112. So he has rounded and 7.2 it has been obtained. So this is how we get the value of WU corresponding to the given values of R and T. So now use this formula. So S is equal to Q. Again, be consistent in your units. 4 pi T WU. So you will get draw down as 1.42. So this is one direct method. This is one direct method. Now, let us see what are the other methods. Have you all followed this method?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let us see next one. Peace has developed another method also. The first step in this method is to get the type curve. Now, the type curve is nothing but the graph drawn between U and WU. Now, values of observed drawdown. Suppose there is a pumping test done. No? Now this method and other methods which we are going to discuss are conducted or are used to determine the aquifer constants. That means S and T, storage coefficient and transmissivity. So how to determine the storage coefficient and transmissivity for an aquifer, confined aquifer in our case, in the present case? So you excavate a well, you drill a well, and then start pumping, and at some observation well, which is located at a distance of R, go on measuring the drawdown. So at a given R, with respect to time from the beginning of pumping, so go on measuring. Time t is equal to 0, 1 hour, 2 hours, or 1 day, 2 day, whatever unit you follow that, and continuously for a long period, the test is to be conducted and the data is to be recorded. So that, first of all, we must have. Now, values of observed drawdown, S, from a pumping test are plotted against the values of R square by T. Now you have R and T. So plot a graph between R square and T on logarithmic paper of same size and scale as that of the type curve made available in step 1. See, you will have a type curve. So whatever scale is used in the type curve, the same scale you have to use. That means, suppose if it is 3 cycles by 3 cycles graph paper, so you have to also draw your R square by T versus S on a 3 by 3 cycled graph sheet, logarithmic graph sheet. Then what you do is, the observed time drawdown plot is superimposed on the type curve. So you put your type curve on over and above your data plot, keeping the coordinate axes of the two curves parallel. So you should keep the x-axis of your field data graph sheet and the x-axis of the type curve parallel. So when you keep these two parallel, automatically the y-axis will also be parallel, because y-axis will be perpendicular to x-axis. So that you have to keep. Now what you do is, you shift your type curve in such a way that most of the plotted points observed data fall on any one segment of the type curve. So the type curve and your data curve need not coincide fully, but to the maximum possible extent they should match. They should coincide. So then you take any convenient point, and that point is called as a match point. So for that match point, now you note your U value and WU value on the type curve, and R square by T and S on your field data graph. So now you will have values of WU, U, S and R square by T, which correspond to one match point. This match point need not be on the graph, anywhere. It can be anywhere. But the only thing is, these two graphs should be superimposed in such a way that maximum part of your data sheet, data graph, coincides with the type curve. So from these recorded values of WU, U, S, R square T, S and T can be calculated using equations 1A and 2A. This is 1A. This is 2A. So what you do is, we have this value and we have this value and we have this value and we have this value. These four values are the match point coordinates. 1 and 2 are on your sheet, and 3 and 4 are on your type curve. Okay. We anyhow know the value of Q. So what are the unknowns here? This is one unknown and this is one unknown. So you require two equations and you are having, I mean, you have to calculate two parameters and you are having two equations. Hence you can calculate. So in this method, this has considered that the relationship between WU and U to be similar to that between S and R square by T, and suggested an approximate solution for S and T based on the graphic method of superposition. So that is the crux of this method. In this method, a plot on logarithm, that's what I told. So this is how we see, this is your type curve. And this is your observed data. So this is small s and this is in meters, and this also should be in meter square. So this is the standard graph. So this is simple method. Now, the second method is what is known as an approximate method, the Cooper and Jacob method. So Cooper and Jacob noted that for small values of R and large values of T, U will be small, so that the series in this equation become negligible after the first two terms. So what are the first two terms? Minus 0.5772 and log U. So all these terms are neglected. So your equation will now get simplified to this. and where u is this value. So he has used this approximation. So what he has done is he has simply written S is equal to Q by 4 pi T minus 0.5772 log R squared S by 4 Tt. So this equation is rewritten, and if you look at this, if you call this entire thing, this is constant. If you call this as a constant, and if you call this as, say for example, x, and if you call this as y, so this is y is equal to k log x. So if I draw a graph between y and log kx, so you can call this as capital X and this as capital Y. So what type of graph you will get? You will get a straight line. So what you do is, if the suppose this is your graph, suppose this is the graph you got. So what you do is you extend this such that it touches the axis at s is equal to 0. So the corresponding value is T naught. So if you substitute s is equal to 0 in this equation, see here log is converted to log to the base 10. This is natural logarithm and this is to the base 10. So that multiplying factor is used here. So this is 0. So you will get if you take log 1 is 0, what we know. So therefore, we will get when this will become 0, when this entire thing will become 0. See this part This cannot be 0. So only possible thing is this is 0. So when this will be 0, this will be 0 for log 1. So that means this must be equal to 1. Do you follow? All of you. Have you followed this? What we do is, we will equate this to 1. So this is equal to 1. So therefore, capital S is equal to this. Now what we do is, a value for t can be obtained by noting that if suppose t by t naught, some 2 time differences we will consider, t and some other time, I mean t naught is the initial time and some other time t, such that this difference t by t naught is equal to 10. That means 1 log cycle. So log t by t naught will be equal to 1. So therefore, now if we replace S by delta S, where S is the drawdown difference per log cycle, then T will become so this will be the form. So what we do, first you solve for T, because in this the initial time is known, S is known, so T is solved. Sorry, not this, I'm sorry. So this is what we get, T is equal to 2.303 Q by 4 pi delta S. So what you do, you select the value of delta S such that they are 1 log cycle apart, such that your T by T naught is 10. So in your data, you have T by T naught, T and T naught. So you take 2 values, T and T naught, such that their ratio is equal to 10. So corresponding to that value, the difference in drawdown will be delta S. So use that value of delta S in equation 5. You will directly get the value of T. Then use this to get your S. Use this equation 4a to get your value of S. But the only thing is, this particular method gives satisfactory values only when u is less than 0.01. So this is Cooper and Jacob method. I will take a little break and then rejoin again. Then the third method. The third method is Chow's method. Chow is the same person who has written your textbook, Bente Chow, open channel flow. So Chow developed a method of solution with the advantage of avoiding curve fitting and being unrestricted in its application. In this method also, the drawdown measurements in an observation well are made. The solution procedure is as follows. The observational data are plotted on a semi-logarithmic paper in the same manner of Cooper and Jacob method. On the plotted curve, an arbitrary point is chosen and the coordinates, that is time and drawdown, S, are to be noted. So up to this it is clear. Then a tangent to the curve at the chosen point is to be drawn and the drawdown difference delta S in appropriate units per 1 log cycle of time are to be noted. Okay. So using the values of drawdown S and delta S noted, a function fu, that is S by delta S, is calculated, which is related to the well function WU, as WU is equal to 2.3 times FU. However, this relation is valid only for values of FU less than 2.0. FU less than 2.0. Right. So from this value of FU, W is arrived and therefrom the value of U is calculated. Now I will explain this method with the help of an example. That is better. Okay. So if you have followed the first two methods, then we can discuss about the other two methods, that is Chow's method and the recovery method later. So let me see if I have readily the problems. No, I don't have the problems here in this PowerPoint. Okay. So basically, the principle behind Chow's method I have just introduced to you. The details I will explain further. Then I will also tell what is the other method, the fourth method. And then we will continue later. Now, there is a little disadvantage in the earlier methods, because in the earlier methods, what we have to do is, we had to continuously do the pumping for a prolonged period of time, and we had to see that the constant discharge is maintained, and at different time intervals we have to go and measure the drawdown. So this becomes a little bit tedious problem. Tedious problem in the sense that maintenance of constant discharge is a problem. So what another method was suggested is, now suppose you start pumping. You pump for a continuously long period and then stop it. When you stop it, what will happen? There will be a recovery into the well. So there will be water will enter into the well and the drawdown will be gradually rising. The water level in the well will rise. So therefore, in the case of normal pumping test, when S increases with T, now here, if you note the time, after stopping the pumping, the value of drawdown will go on decreasing. So the measurements of drawdown below the original static level prior to the pumping during the recovery period are known as residual drawdowns. They are referred as residual drawdowns. So measurements of residual drawdowns enable the determination of transmissivity. So the rate of discharge to the well during the recovery is assumed to be constant and is equal to the mean pumping rate, whereas the pumping rates often vary and are difficult to control accurately in the field. So this is another advantage. See, the disadvantage with the previous methods, or for considering any of the methods, whether it is Thies method or Cooper-Jacob method or Chokes method, you have to maintain a constant discharge, and which is very difficult. So in the initial stage, there will be less discharge rate, and gradually it will increase, and of course it will remain constant. Then there will be also certain fluctuations in between. So now in this recovery test method, we need not bother about the maintenance of constant. The only thing is you consider an average rate, average discharge rate, average pumping rate. So that average pumping rate can be considered as your discharge. So if a well is pumped for a known period and then shut down, so what will happen? This is the water level. Now when you start pumping, the water level will go down. At different times, the drawdown will increase. Now what you do, you stop pumping here. When you stop pumping here, from this time onwards, there will be a rise in the water level. So this is what is called as a recovery. So finally, if this is the final water level, it will reach there. It will reach the equilibrium level. So now what we do is, instead of considering the drawdown, we will consider the residual drawdown. So S dash, the residual drawdown, is also given by the same well function. But the only difference is, because it is raising, so it is written as original value. This is residual drawdown. So this is actual drawdown, and this is recovered drawdown, recovery. So if this is WU, this will be W. This is also a well function, but we are defining it as WU dash. So this we can write. So now what we do is we plot a residual drawdown versus T by T dash, where T dash is the time measured from stopping of the pump. And so T by T dash we'll consider as one log cycle. So automatically that will give us delta S dash. So this equation we can use to get T. When once T is obtained, S can be automatically determined. Okay, when once you know T, you can take any one point, observation well point, and then use that well function value. So this is how the recovery test will work. So the next set of things we have to consider are the unconfined aquifers and leaky aquifers. These are the two things we have to consider here. So we will take these things in the next class. But before that, let me see tomorrow. Tomorrow I think you are completely full, isn't it? Tomorrow afternoon, you are free. So can we meet tomorrow?